Hey, what's up guys? T37 back with another World of Tanks review. Now this review is going to be on the T37, one of the new light tanks added in the 9.3 patch. Continues up into the line that I'm going to be making a mini-series on, from the Chaffee. I'm not going to review that because I already, that's bleh. Got nerfed to shit. But the T37, which is a very capable light tank, we'll be reviewing today. M41 Bulldog, which I'm currently grinding. And eventually the T49 once I get that nice troll tank with its 152 derp that can touch you. So back to the main focus. What happened was the Chaffee got pretty much nerfed to crap, and they made the old Chaffee into a T37 and bumped it up to tier 6 with a slightly upgraded gun, better top speed, and aim time, and it's really just a better old Chaffee, which preliminary stuff you can just expect from how it looks with the same turret as the old Chaffee. Now, along with this patch, they did add in the light tank T54, LTTB, and also the the German tech tree from the VK2811. You got the Awful Panther, which was already in, and then the RU251. RU251 is arguably the best light tank that they added in this patch. Definitely like the Walker Bulldog, which I'm grinding right now, but I won't be able to tell until I get the 251 from the German tech tree. So let's go on with this T37 review, and we'll see what we can find out about it. Alright, so now that we have all the other tier 6 light tank counterparts opened up in the tech tree, let's take a look at these and compare them to each other. So T37, right off the bat, you can see has a nice hit point pool compared to the other tier 6 light tanks that are in its class. Now, I don't have the MT25 opened up because that's just on a whole new spectrum for that light tank, but as compared to, tanks that are similar, such as the T21 at 590 hit points, Type 64, which is a tier 6 premium tank, at 580, and the 5916 at 530. So the 5916 is relatively, I don't want to say similar to the T21's playstyle, but at the same time, it doesn't have the good gun like the T21. It has a 76mm autoloader, which really just doesn't cut it in terms of pen. You can run all gold, but it's just overall a mediocre tier 6 light tank, especially with its 360 view range being quite pitiful nonetheless. So I guess we cross out of that. The T21 versus the T71, it really compares it to it in terms of mobility, as in pick up and go and acceleration. The T37 does have a nice, better kilometer speed limit at 66 rather than 56, so you can outmaneuver tanks quite easily. However, the traverse speed on the T21 being a whopping 58 just demolishes the T37's traverse speed at 48. Now, armor, obviously, in light tanks, you cannot rely on them, and it's it's nothing special by any means. The T37 has a relatively little bit better, turret armor at 31 as opposed to 28, and it has a gun mantlet that eats up a little bit of shells from same tier targets. The standard shell damage, I guess we can't really go over, other than T21 being a little bit less with the stock gun, but with the upgraded gun, the T37 obviously will win the draw there. Now, the other thing that I want to really touch on here is the similarities in playstyle between the T37 and Type 64. Now, due to the Type 64 being a little bit faster with a little bit less pick up and go, it kind of evens out to the same mobility as the T37. The T37 has a little bit less of traverse speed, and its acceleration is probably along the lines the same as the Type 64, which is a little bit sluggish at first, but then with the upgraded engine, it's pretty much a little bit better than Type 64. So you get a really good top speed with a little bit of sluggish pick up and go, but it is a great combo for a light tank, which we'll also see in the gameplay. So one thing to note, that it has similar gun depression to the Type 64, has around -12 degrees of gun depression, which I believe the Type 64 has like -14. So you can really see there that the hold down technique against other light tanks really can come into play, especially when just cresting up hills to light tanks and quickly pulling back, which you will also see in the gameplay. So the view range and turret traverse are pretty similar on these tanks, at 390 and 44 as opposed to 36. Type 64 has pretty much around the same type of gun as the T37 also, which really makes it a good complementary tank if you do own a Type 64 as to what to look for in the T37. Now, the only thing about the Type 64 is it actually has a little bit more capability of active scout rolling than the T37 does. So if we check out the guns, there are two viable guns technically, but I really argue that the autoloader is not worth it. It's more of like a 1375 type cannon or 12T. It has 5 shells in the canister at a 76 millimeter with around a 15-second reload with all upgraded skills and such, and it has only 137 millimeters of pen with AP, and with APCR it still only has 185. Now it does have the same alpha and a little bit more dispersion at 0.38 as opposed to 0.36 on the straight shot 76. However, the T91, the 76 millimeter that I like to use, has a great rate of fire at 18.18 seconds, which yields around a 3-second reload, along with the average penetration at tier at 150 and 199 with the gold shell, which really comes into help, especially with that APCR selection. Now, HE shells for other light tanks is 38 pens, so you might be able to pen a few light tanks if you're flanking them, but don't really suggest doing that. Now, it does have a 1.9 second aim time, which is amazing, especially for an American light tank, and the dispersion on the move is quite good too. So the T37, really in a nutshell, is pretty much like the old Chaffee, just a little bit bigger, a little bit more sluggish, but it has a good top speed and more hit points. So pretty much in a nutshell, it's really just the old Chaffee, with, you know, the same type of turret here as the old upgraded Chaffee, but a different whole armor scheme and a little bit more view range. So what we can see here from the armor, you know, obviously it's paper, but there are a few no damage spots, such as the ears here and these you know, little commander hatches up here. Commander's hatch, obviously weak spot. The sides of the ears with these little, I guess, anti-air guns are also pen spots. Those they have remodeled with the HD to be hit boxes. They never used to be, I believe, on the old Chaffee. If you look at the tracks, they are HD and everything. It looks really good, in my opinion. If the texture on the turret was a little bit different towards the back, I would, especially for these bars here, I would appreciate that. But obviously, wargaming and whatnot does not like to do that. So next we'll have crew skills and pretty much just talk about the other things to run on the tank before gameplay. Okay, so if you can see here, I'm already on the Walker Bulldog, and I've kept the T37 just for the sake of making this review on this little mini-series here as we go to the T49. But for the most part, I don't have 6th Sense yet. Trying to see if I have anyone else. No, I do not. So I guess I'll go ahead and just show you my Bulldog crew, which is obviously the crew that I had on my T37 before I trained it up to the Bulldog. And if you see here, everyone else has 2 skills, and the commander only has 1. That is because I'm using my old Chaffee crew, which I actually accidentally dismissed the commander, because I'm an idiot, and I had to get a new one. So obviously, it's a light tank, so you're going to want to have camo skill first, no matter what. You can obviously retrain like I did once you get a full skill to get the on-the-move shooting perks, such as Snapshot, Smooth Ride, and Safe Stowage, and then you can go ahead and obviously get 6th Sense, but since I'm so close, I'm not going to retrain for camo and then get 6th Sense and waste the gold. So once I get 6th Sense 100%, I'm going to get camo, and then after that I'm going to get all repairs and such, because that does come in handy when you're you know, counter scouting and destroying another auto-loading scout, such as a Bulldog or another T37. So that's the crew skills in a nutshell. Next we can run equipment on this tank, which in my opinion isn't necessary for tier 6, but if you do want to spend the credits and are a good tanker that has, you know, the capability of taking advantage of those equipment, such as like rammer and whatever, but I don't think this can even mount a rammer. Pretty much what you want to run is what I found to be the best is what I have on my Bulldog. Vents or a vert stab, depending on what you want to run in terms of active scouting or passive scouting. I like to passive scout a little bit more in these tanks, and it really comes in handy, especially once I get that 6th Sense. It will be borderline overpowered. So Binocs, Camo Net, and Vents is what I run. If you want to change out the Camo Net or Vents for a vert stab, or coated optics, that's definitely a plus that you can run for active scouting, but due to this Bulldog having a 10-round autoloader, I'm definitely going to snipe a lot more with it, because it does have APCR standard, which really comes in handy too. So back on the T37, obviously, like I said, same exact thing. You want to run Camo Net, Binocs, and Vert Stab, or Improved Ventilation. As the shell count goes, I like to run 30, 15, 3, holds 48 rounds, so I have run out of rounds quite a lot in this tank, and this tank really, if you last towards the end of the battle, can help for spotting, which is why I have the Binox and Camo Net. So, yep, 30 AP, 15 APCR, and 3 AG. Now we have the standard consumable loadout at small repair kit, small first aid kit, automatic fire extinguisher. Definitely take advantage of those those missions now, because you can see that I have 34 automatic fire extinguishers in the depot and 46 small repair kits, which I really have not worked at all for, and it's just pubs. Winning games gets you free stuff, so definitely take advantage of that and put the automatic fire extinguisher on. Now, that's pretty much it for the preliminary stuff. We'll have some gameplay. Hopefully, I can salvage a couple that I've played since I already finished this T37 grind. But if not, I have a really good replay from Vretgar, which I probably will put in this video because that is one of the best games I've seen in a while. I was planning on making it a replay of the week, but if I can't find anything for myself, I'm going to have to use that. So that's pretty much it for this. And I actually guess I'll go into the tech tree and go through the research modules first before we get started with this. So when you get this tank, before anything, you're probably going to have this, hopefully from something else like the T69. Because I already had the radio, obviously, because that's on a lot of tanks, and the engine. So get the tracks, because I believe you can mount everything without the tracks, but you cannot mount equipment. So if you want equipment, get the tracks first. You'll probably have the engine. If not, get the engine. And then get the turret, guns, and preferably the T91 gun. I didn't research this. I probably will eventually to make it elite, but that's just my preference. So as a recap, engine, tracks, guns, turret, gun, and then radio last if you don't already have that. So now we'll get some pretty good gameplay that I hopefully will be able to scavenge up some. So stay tuned, guys. Alrighty, so this T37 gameplay is really a gameplay that pretty much showcases the passive scouting and peek and shoot ability of this tank. Now, we're in a standard battle, platooned up with Devlin and Jurassic. On the other team, you can see we have G Zanfield, which is a well-known streamer that we actually pull out the win despite him being on the enemy team, because his team kind of derps and he can't carry hard enough, which really, you know, isn't really going to happen when your team is that bad. So let's go ahead, zoom into the battle here, and really just skip the opening stuff. Now we do have Jurassic and artillery, and he really helps out to kill Anfield and get that threat down. Not really immediately, but throughout the course of the game. Lewis is in his 416, which really helps out in middle. He eventually flexes towards the west. Now I don't have Sixth Sense, but I do get into the nice perch spot here and spot Anfield quite quickly. Now I do pull back. He doesn't spot me, but I'm being really careful because of the fact that I don't have Sixth Sense. So I'm able to spot him, get my Camo Net and Binox working. Do got to pull out a little bit to make sure that I can keep him in my sights, and he really has no clue that I'm here. So the fact that that's even happening at, what is this, 300 meters, I'm behind a rock, but there's not really there's a bush in front of me, but that doesn't count as cover, because it's not 50 meters in between. So I'm keeping a spot. There's a 54 over there, which isn't the best position for 54, but he's countering me from going to get flank shots on these guys. And while all of this is happening, I'm not sure if you realize that he's permanently spotted, but that's really just what's happening. And this really follows the gameplay of a passive scout. You can be active in this tank, but I really just like doing this, and just watching it happen in these replays is really funny, because these guys have no clue that they're being spotted. And this is really what happens in those games where you're just getting blapped party exactly like that for 883 and you don't know how the hell it's happening or how you're spotted. It's because of scout tanks like this. And you can see that he is looking at this way to see if he can spot, but he realizes that he knows I'm there, but he just doesn't know where exactly. So our heavies are doing relatively well up there north. IS-7's trying to engage Anfield, and he's most likely going to get wrecked. Gets penned really for a low roll there. But I'm really just spotting for Jurassic at this point, and the GW Tiger P and Conch GC to hit Anfield and get him out of the game as quick as possible. because that's really what we need here before we can push up north, because especially since he's in an E100, that's one of the tanks that are beefy enough to hold a flank by itself. So Jurassic is aiming in. Hopefully he can get a nice shot on Anfield here, as the I-7 does get his attention, turns his turret a little bit, and Jurassic is about to fire, I would hope, unless he shot at something else. 57's pushing the mid a little bit too hard, and he is already safe, so Jurassic puts that out there. I am spotting him still, and this gameplay really just consists of, in this tank, of scouting, passive scouting. Maybe you can do a little run at the beginning. Anfield does try to hit me there and splash me with HE, but it doesn't work. It really consists of just a quick scout run at the beginning, maybe pull back and pass a scout, and then definitely sloppy seconds, which is probably characterized as a French, for the most part, French playstyle, which really does follow the playstyle of 1390 kind of. Anfield's just trying to shoot me in this Wheezy, but we are in some pretty good hard cover here. So I will fast forward this because it is getting a bit boring, you know, in terms of this, and I'm really getting that Wheezy out of here because he's on my nerves and he's getting me spotted. So, you know, it does take some time to progress, and obviously to play these scout tanks, you have to be really, really patient to have it to the best of its ability. So we do have shots of this 57 if he comes out, but I'm trying to get a shot here, which I cannot. Try and get the track shot, no shots. So there is an IS-3 that I can pen, so I go ahead and switch to gold rounds, shoot one into the upper plate, that bounces, shoot another into the turret, that bounces, and hopefully we will be able to pen Anfield here, but that's not going to happen either. It's really a slower gameplay in this tank. In other maps, such as Fisherman's Bay, or trying to think of others, maybe even Himmelsdorf, it's more of hand-to-hand combat. Not hand-to-hand, whatever you want to call it, close quarters combat, and really, you know, where you have to peek and shoot. But at this point in time, I'm really just sniping at these guys. And there's a pen on the IS-3. Get my first shot of damage there. He does retreat, and now we're going to go in for sloppy seconds. And really, this tank gets the majority of its damage at range. You don't want to go too far in because you'll get blown to smithereens. But at the same time, flank shots such as this, you can get in really closely. The IS-3 backs himself up into the corner, and really I'm just going to take a shot from him, hopefully. He's not looking, which he is not. Now I can just spam him. So, getting shots on his tracks here. Get one more pen. He does shoot me once. Get one more pen on him, and hopefully we'll be able to kill him, which we get the kill. So they do have 3 artillery, so we're going to go ahead and abuse the fact that we have good mobility. You can see here that its pick up and go is a bit sluggish compared to other light tanks of its tier, but it's definitely a capable tank. And especially with that passive scouting right at the beginning, towards the majority of the game, is really all you have to do in this tank for it to get its win 8, and also, you know, obviously get that late damage and kill to make sure. But really, it's a great tank for passive scouting. Its XP threshold and win 8 threshold is not that much. I do get a no damage pen on that Tiger P, and eventually get the kill. But it's a great finishing off tank too, because its fire rate is only you know, I think it's like 18, but 3-second reload is just grand for this tank. So there's a T35, so I'm going to make sure I get the hell out of his way. And he kills the WZ-120, so I'm going to go ahead, go around him, hopefully kill the artillery, hopefully get... Ooh, Jurassic gets a nice splash there. Do have the Type 61 as the GC gets a 1-hit on that T95, and Lewis finishes him off. So you can see here that 2 kills and... only around 800 damage, gets almost 3k win 8. So, like I said, very easy tank for the threshold. And hopefully will be updated 9.4 because so many stat patters are using this tank religiously. But that's really the best gameplay I have to show the passive scouting capabilities in combination with the late game cleanup. So I really hope you guys like this review so far. We'll have some closing thoughts next, and stay tuned. Okay, so as I log in conclusion, for this T37 light tank from the American tree is really, what to expect is pretty much an upgraded old Chaffee. If you guys played, hopefully you've been playing before the Chaffee got nerfed to hell, which it is right now. And it really just got put into a new class, as a light tank at tier 6. And this is pretty much an upgraded version of that old Chaffee. Gets a very nice gun, 76 millimeter. Actually, I thought it was going to be a 75, but it has more pen, better rate of fire, all that good stuff, better aim time than the old Chaffee, and it does have that auto loader that you can try out if you want, but I don't really recommend it as much. Really got to fire old gold in that thing. So pretty much overall great tank. I really like it. Probably give it a 7 out of 10 just because it's a tier 6 light tank and it's really situational in terms of win 8 and doing well in games. It is a great light tank. It's definitely capable in good players' hands, but once again, it's one of those tanks where you have to be really patient, and you saw from that gameplay. And if you're not a patient player, you really shouldn't pick up this tank or really any light tank in general. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Just want to recommend that you guys send in your replays for the contest that I have that is ending December 1st. Got a month and a half around to finish that up. And I believe Retgar is in the lead. His replay I actually did not use because I'm going to use his M41 Bulldog replay in the next video that I have, which will be on the Bulldog. So stay tuned for that. That'll be probably up in the next day or so because I'm trying to crank these out as I grind through this line. Bulldog's obviously just a way upgraded version of the T37 with that 10-round autoloader, which is probably my favorite light tank, other than the 1390 and possibly Wheezy 132. So check for that in the next 7 days. That's pretty much wraps up this T37 review. Comment, rate, subscribe. Happy tanking, guys. Good luck on the battlefield.